While the eyes of the international press remain focused on developments in North Korea and the Middle East, and on China's overwhelming military growth, little attention is given to India and radical changes that could act as a springboard for India's definitive affirmation as a great global superpower. Moreover, India has to face two threats that have become both much more dangerous in the last few years: China and Pakistan. Although the threat posed by China and its growing military weight took the first place in the latest Indian Defense White Paper, replacing Pakistan, the latter poses, never as today, a very serious threat. To compensate for the widening divide between its military strength and that of India, Pakistan has invested heavily in the development and fielding of tactical nuclear weapons. The danger derives from a renewed consideration about the use of tactical nuclear weapons, a consideration that doesn't take place only in the Indian subcontinent, but here has the greatest relevance. Pakistan, in fact, fears the looming of the growing Indian military power and has raised the stakes. Usually, the border skirmishes between the two countries were as follows. Pakistan infiltrated forces into Jammu and Kashmir regions in support of an insurgency against Indian rule. India retaliated with sustained artillery bombardments, mass armored assault, and deep strikes. This is becoming a less realistic scenario, as Pakistan is further developing the aforementioned asymmetric capabilities. India won't allow Pakistani operations to go unpunished, but at the same time cannot contemplate the use of the large-scale military operation option anymore. In the meantime, China grows stronger and stronger. India has not the resources to match its opponent, and won't have it at the very least in this decade. It could be said that the biggest difference lies on the equipment, 3 to 4 times superior economy, while India can count on more soldiers and a population that is very close to overcoming that of China. The single biggest weak point concerning Indian armed forces is the absence of an important defense industry. India was the largest importer of weapons in the period between 2012 and 2016. China is instead ranked 4th, having become able to produce many systems internally, and now importing only key components. Let us be very clear on this point. There is no way a nation will win a modern large-scale military conflict without the support of a highly capable indigenous industry. Fighting a war relying on foreign imports is like being in a gunfight where one has to order the bullets and wait for the delivery. China, in contrast, is capable of producing something like 5th generation stealth fighters, advanced satellites, hypersonic gliders, and the list goes very long. Luckily, India understood what a huge mistake this was, and in 2014, Narendra Modi-led government launched Make in India to encourage companies to manufacture products in India, defense industry included. It will take many years, even if successful, to start reaping the benefits. It needs to be mentioned anyway that 3 very capable Indian defense industry actors are already efficiently producing top-notch equipment: Defense Research and Development Organization, Tata Group, and Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. In the meantime, anyway, the gap between China and India in terms of weapon technology will get even wider. India has one of the largest armies in the world, with over 3 million soldiers in peacetime, between active and reserve force. It's considered a very professional and well-trained armed force, and has got a significant amount of operative experience. India has still few dedicated military satellites, with a communication satellite for its navy and one to be launched in 2018 for its air force. A bit better the situation regarding ESR satellites, with some of them claimed to be able to take a panchromatic picture with a resolution of 0.6 meters. The main battle tank force numbers are significant, even though the upgraded T-72 that constitute the bulk of Indian main battle tanks are old. T-90 on the contrary is still a highly respected tank, and even Arjun cannot compare to this reliable Russian tank. Arjun faced many problems that reflect what India needs to face to do that jump in order to take the seat among world superpowers. the development of a strong and reliable national defense industry. Infantry fighting vehicles don't provide sufficient protection for Indian troops, as even the Russian BMP-2 side armor can be easily penetrated by 25 30mm cannons mounted on many other armored fighting vehicles, not to mention improvised explosive devices or latest anti-armored portable weapons. Quite obsolete its armored personnel carriers too. Luckily, they will be starting to be replaced by indigenous Tata Kestrel this or next year, and these armored personnel carrier stats are among the real best, and Indian troops needs it to face the Chinese challenge on the mountainous border terrain, with its high power to weight ratio, very good firepower and even better mobility. India has a good overall artillery, enough modern and with very impressive numbers. What is really a needed improvement is to produce ammunitions and spare parts, one of the main problems afflicting Indian armed forces in all branches. It is necessary to describe in detail the very advanced missile capabilities of India, as some of them are really state-of-the-art missiles. When we talk about missiles, well, Indian are among the very best. The Indians have learned so much and from undisputed teachers like the Russian engineers, artists when it comes to missiles. SA-6 Gameful, also known as Kub system, was the first medium-range mobile missile developed in the 60s and one of the most commercially successful Russian missile ever. It proved its worth when it was used in the Yom Kippur War by the Egyptians, which managed to shoot down Israeli aircraft at a very impressive rate. Akash instead, it's a modern Indian-made air defense surface-to-air missile designed to neutralize both aircrafts and ballistic missiles, although not very fast against the latter. It's a very impressive design, as it rather functions as an early warning system in a range from 100 to 150 kilometers and can shoot down aerial targets at a range of more than 30 kilometers and an altitude of 18,000 meters. Furthermore, it's way cheaper than other comparable systems, making this missile one of the best Indian designed weapons. BrahMos missile is probably the single best weapon in Indian inventory, and for sure ranks among the best cruise missiles in the world. With a speed of Mach 3, this is probably the most precise cruise missile in the world, with a circular error probable of only 5 meters. This allows Indians to be capable of real surgical strikes. Another advantage of this missile is its ability to be carried in platform belonging to all the three domains, from aircrafts and mobile land platform to submarines. The Agni missile is a family of medium to intercontinental ballistic missiles, whose progenitor Agni-1 was first launched in 1989. And how far has this system gone if you consider that now the 5000, 8000 and 8000 to 10,000 versions are being tested. They are reported to be among the most precise ballistic missiles in the world, allowing India to use less fissile fusion material while maintaining its lethality. India has an interesting ballistic missile defense. Following Pakistani Foreign Secretary Shamshad Ahmad's warning about the possible use of nuclear weapons during 1999 Kargil War, and after a US veto for an Indian bid to acquire Israeli ballistic missile defense system Arrow-2, India started developing its own ballistic missile defense system in two phases. Phase 1, it's a two-tier system that includes Prithvi defense vehicle for exo-atmospheric interception capabilities, by using Indian-developed Prithvi missile with a max 150 km altitude interception and with a speculated speed of over Mach 7. The Advanced Air Defense Ashwin Ballistic Missile Interceptor, on the other hand, is tasked with intercepting incoming ballistic missiles in the endo-atmosphere at an altitude of 30 km and with a Mach 4.5 speed. Phase 2 will be, again, a two-tier system capable of intercepting ballistic missiles at a 5,000 km range. In order to complete this defensive shield, India has ordered 5 units of Russian S-400 Triumph. By analyzing the Indian Navy, one realizes an interesting and ironic detail. The Indian aircraft carrier ENS Vikramaditya and that of the rival Chinese Navy Liaoning have the same identical origin and belong to the same Soviet Kiev class. Anyway, Indian Navy has great ambitions and has planned to have a total 3 aircraft carrier force. The first is the aforementioned Soviet-era refitted ENS Vikramaditya, capable to carry more than 30 fixed and rotary wings aircrafts, and provided the necessary experience to proceed with the constructions of indigenous aircraft carriers. The second, ENS Vikrant, is planned to be commissioned between 2020 and 2023 and will be the first Indian-built aircraft carrier with a similar displacement compared with ENS Vikramaditya, will be able to carry 30 to 40 fixed and rotary wings aircraft. Both INS Vikramaditya and INS Vikrant have a stopper configuration. This means there's something in the middle between short takeoff and vertical landing and catapult-assisted takeoff but with arrested recovery. So, although not like STOVL, this configuration still limits weapons and fuel carrying capabilities of the aircraft operating on aircraft carriers of this kind. The third and far more interesting instead, ENS Vishal, will be the first Indian super aircraft carrier. Still in its design phase, it will have a displacement of over 65,000 tons, and if US authorized technology export in India, it will feature US-designed electromagnetic aircraft launch system, EMALS, like the new US Gerald Ford class, thus being India's first Katobar aircraft carrier, increasing by a very big margin Indian power projection capabilities. If, as rumored, it will have a nuclear propulsion, India will join an extremely exclusive club, namely together with the US and France. ENS Jalashva ex-USS Trenton was purchased from the US Navy in 2005. Under purchase terms, this ship cannot be used for any offensive purposes without US Pentagon consent, and US has even the right to regularly inspect it. Obviously, these purchase terms resulted in controversy, owing the acceptance of these restrictions on its use. It's the only Indian ship acquired from the US, and who knows, maybe the last. India has a good landing ship tank fleet, and they need even more if news about China's willingness to increase the size of its marine corps from about 20,000 to 100,000 soldiers are confirmed. Arihant is the first Indian nuclear-powered ballistic missile submarine, the first of a series of 4 submarines designed and built completely in India, the second of which is expected to be commissioned in the late 2018. It is an advanced submarine, although not the best on the market, but will be the testbed for follow-on future programs, already speculated to be larger and more capable. In the meantime, India is training its crew aboard the Russian-leased ENS Chakra. India attack submarine force, instead, is not in a very good state of efficiency, considering the many incidents happened to the ex-Kilo class and the general obsolescence. The Rajput class destroyers, unfinished Soviet Kashin class, then redesigned and completed by India, are the first to deploy BrahMos supersonic cruise missile in its anti-ship version. This is the oldest destroyer class in the Indian Navy, dating back to the 80s, but the many refits, like the Planet 1 to upgrade the propulsion system with an indigenously developed system, will extend the life of these vessels for a few years more. The Shivalik class is usually classified as a frigate class. We have a different opinion on that. Commissioned in 2012 and with a follow-on project called Project 17A frigates for a total 10 vessels, Shivalik class has the right credentials to be defined a destroyer class. With a displacement of 6,200 tons, over 6,500 for Project 17A, armed with Automelara 76mm anti-ship gun to engage smaller vessels, 2 anti-ship missile systems, Club and BrahMos, 2 anti-aircraft missile systems, Shtil 1 and Barak 1, RBU 6000 Smerch 2 anti-submarine rocket launchers capable of shore bombardment 2, torpedoes, advanced stealth capabilities, and being able to carry 2 helicopters. We honestly think that its design far exceeds that of a frigate class, considering that BrahMos missiles are more than capable of land attacks. Kolkata class are, simply put, the largest destroyer class ever operated by the Indian Navy, and one of the most advanced and lethal destroyer class in the world. The 3 ships of this class have a full load displacement of 7,400 tons and very advanced stealth capabilities. These ships have a 16 cells universal vertical launch system that enables them to launch 16 BrahMos missiles in salvo, almost simultaneously. For their anti-aircraft defense, have an upgraded Barak 8 missiles, even capable of limited ballistic missiles defense. The combat management system is among the most advanced ever deployed by a ship, and, furthermore, in addition to a large flight deck for 2 helicopters, these ships have an enclosed hangar with space for 2 additional helicopters. Considering Kolkata-class advanced capabilities, the expectation for the upcoming first ship of the new Visakhapatnam class is growing, as it is planned to enter service in July 2018. A rather noticeable feature of the Indian minor military ships is that they have a much higher tonnage than the class they belong to. Therefore, for instance, Saryu and Sukanya classes are de facto light frigate, even considering that they have less weapon systems. The Indian Air Forces have a peculiarity. They are both among the best funded and, at the same time, those most hungry for funding. India operates many types of combat aircrafts, and they are quite different from each other, ranging from very old to cutting-edge aircraft. MiG-21, for instance, was a very good fighter in the 70s. Now is completely outclassed by just any potential hostile fighters in the area, so they are being phased out. Luckily, this is mitigated by the presence of MiG-27, old but still reliable. By just seeing the numbers, it is easy to realize India is betting on an increasing Sukhoi 30 MKE multi-role fighter fleet. Sukhoi 30 MKE is quite a respectable fighter. Like many flanker late models, it is extremely maneuverable in close-range fights, dogfights, while weak in high alpha maneuvers, those at low speed and high angle of attack, and it carries an impressive amount of weapons and fuel. It is a tough opponent against other enemy 4th generation fighters, but has a very big radar cross-section, thus being a very easy prey for advanced 5th generation stealth hostile fighters. The threat posed by the new Chinese 5th generation stealth fighter Chengdu J-20 in this regard may indeed be one of the hottest debates held in the environments where the strategy to counter China is decided, although one should realize that any super advanced aircraft nowadays can be disposed of by means of just one of the Indian advanced surface-to-air missiles. The real big problem Indian Air Force is facing is its rapidly aging old aircraft fleets and the lack of understanding and preparation of the civilian bureaucracy in this subject, responsible for any procurement decision without the involvement of the armed force chiefs as professional military advisors to the government. This is probably the single thing which more than any other marks the difference between the Indian and Chinese armed forces. While the latter, especially in the last decade, reached development and war capabilities milestones at amazing fast rates, to the point to almost always exceed the predictions of Western observers, the former continues to make choices following an inhomogeneous planning line. India is buying 36 Dassault Rafales from France. Whether this aircraft will be used in an aerial superiority role or nuclear deterrence, this is unknown. What is certain is India's need to emerge as a protagonist in the arms race actually taking place in Asia. In order to do so, India, among other things, began developing its own 5th-generation stealth aircraft program in 2008. Although it slowed down for some years due to the interest and financing of Russian 5th-generation fighter project Sukhoi Pak-fa, from which India wants to produce its version called HAL FGFA. As this project seems to suffer major setbacks and delays, the indigenous project HAL AMCA has regained renewed interest. There are more than 4,000 between engineers and other specialists involved now in this project, but there are 3 issues to solve to allow India to field this advanced aircraft: radar absorbent material, an indigenous AESA radar, and most important of all, an indigenous reliable jet engine. When all of these 3 issues will be solved, then the project will move to its final testing phase. India is growing stronger, and in our opinion, the Make in India initiative may go a long way to help creating a healthy indigenous defense environment. Certainly, it will take, the most optimistic forecast, at least a decade for India to try to catch up with China. But this will also require a change in the leadership responsible for decisions on defense, and certainly greater involvement of the Indian Armed Force experts, as highlighted in our analysis.